Today we have on a special guest, my dear friend, Leah Samir, Senior Loan Officer.
VP of Lending now.
VP of Lending at OriginPoint. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, honey.
Is this her first time on with us?
No, actually.
Well, she's done this before.
Leah's come on. You
With Sarah.
Yeah.
It's never been this throuple.
Okay.
Which is something. This is quite the throuple here.
It's working well.
I'm
We
here
should
for it.
let
Well,
the
we're
guests
all
know we're all
Scorpio.
Scorpio
They need to know that.
Okay, so I am very picky when it comes to my friends and who I let in my circle. But when I met Leah at one of her training events, I sat right in the front. And then she wrote me an email about how I was like a young whippersnapper answering all the questions. And I was like, let's hang out. And I just kind of, eventually she was like, wait, are you trying to be my friend?
She etched at my hard
Your
shell.
cold, dead heart.
I knew she wanted me in
I
her
did.
life.
I wanted
and the same was true with Kat. I saw her in a class and I was like, they said that we had to have accountability partners. And I was like, I'm ready. I'm ready. I know which one I want.
You sat next to her?
Yeah.
I used to be late to class so I could see who I would judge and then go sit next to who
Based on
you're
that.
the prettiest girls.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
so I
definitely.
come super early to class because I don't like having to sit.
Well, you were a teacher too.
Yeah.
That's in your.
It's in your blood.
It's in your blood. Yeah. That's
But
why.
the full
That's
circle
why.
comes when we found out that we're all Scorpio risings.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it was fated that we should all be together.
It was.
And you're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. Instant coven.
Yes.
Built-in coven. So.
We're ready?
Do we
Yes.
need a fourth? Do you feel unmet needs?
A fourth for our coven. I feel like odd numbers are the way to go, and 3 is an auspicious number.
I
in
really
Buddhism,
like
so.
3. In fact,
Jesus,
I
the
was
Holy Trinity.
talking about
3 is important.
I was talking about a baby broker in our office, and I was just filling Emily in on the details of her life, and she was like, "Are you talking about bringing her in?" And I'm like, "No, I wasn't even considering it. It's not even an unmet
I think it's something we would have to talk about.
Oh yeah, you can't just thruple into a what do you call a
Quadruple.
Yeah, you can't just do that
Yeah.
accidentally. It has to be
Quadruple.
very intentional.
Sounds right. And if
I
it's
think-
not right,
I
make
think
it up.
once there's more than 3,
A foursome.
it becomes a harem.
A foursome.
Right?
Oh, a harem.
Oh yeah, also
Right?
that.
A harem or a brothel. We're not supposed to
I think covens can be as big as you want because,
Okay.
I'm sure in the Oregon, or no, Salem, not in Oregon.
Yeah,
different Salem.
Yeah, different Salem.
There were lots of witches,
I think that, yeah, okay.
so
We have options to play down the road, but right now I feel very satiated by
Okay,
this.
we're good.
Yeah.
we each have the energy of 2.
Oh,
So it's
easily.
almost like 6.
It is a lot.
There's a few of
We've
us
got a
in
lot
here.
of juice, and we're all very confident people.
Yeah.
So it's hard to hang with us.
So if
is
you're
what
not
I'm saying.
confident and you're still cool, we could use you.
Yeah, I mean,
Click
I'll
below,
meet with you.
subscribe.
Yeah, I'll keep an open mind. I will.
We are talking about the 2026 housing market. What are our predictions? Yeah.
I'm pretty 10 for 10 this year on guessing how rates are going.
Okay, and what is your prediction? What are we going to see in 2026? Are we seeing rates below 3s?
Let's start out with
Okay.
3s? Are you
Yeah.
crazy?
We just need a hard boundary. We just need a hard yes or
I want to know
no.
what's going to happen.
Next year, my best guess, I think, here I am, I'm going to say it. I think we'll have a couple days that we hit 5.625 on a 30-year fixed.
Yeah,
What?
I agree.
A couple days.
Just a very brief flirt.
Like a little doop, and then
And then
we'll
you're
be
back at
steady
it.
at right below 6.
That's
I've
what I
already
think.
locked quite a few loans this month below 6. So
What was your best luck?
on a 30-year fix, we're talking.
Yes.
Yeah, probably 5.875.
And what about on a
No points. We're talking no points here.
7-year
no points. I got that one down to a 5.5 with
Gorgeous.
no points.
Beautiful.
So there are
This
other
year.
programs. When you look online, you guys, it's just a number. But when you go in and you talk to a loan officer, you're going to learn so much more about all the other ways that they can package this to you so that it makes more sense financially.
Yeah. What do you guys think the rates are going to come down to?
Well,
was your barometer?
first I wanted to just call out the biggies who made very conservative predictions, right? We know
Fannie?
Redfin and Zillow.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
They
more
just
consumer
put-
facing, right?
And that was kind of the premise for this whole episode because they put out their predictions this week.
Which were not
Yeah.
impressive.
Which And I do need to say that, like, nationally, we look way different than the rest of the United States. As far
You mean
as
Washington?
and
Puget
King
Sound,
County,
yeah.
specifically. Like, we are in a landlocked state where there just really isn't room for us to grow. There's no more.
Ifmouth.
What?
An isthmus.
Yeah, an isthmus.
It's land completely surrounded by water.
By water, yeah. There's nowhere else for us to go.
It's not a made up word. It's a real thing, is what it sounds like.
Isthmus. I just don't know how to say it.
It's like Christmas.
It's like ISTHMUTH.
Okay.
It's
Okay,
a
like
real
in
thing.
the word
It's
island.
a real word.
Like in the word isle or island, the S
Isthmus.
is silent,
I think
and
it's
so.
just isthmus.
But
Okay.
we did come out with new permitting restrictions that would allow for us to have more development here. However, the way that each district is rolling them out and how expensive it is to tear down and rebuild is significant here in Seattle. So.
Or to split your lot if you're not already, like, if you don't already own outright. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like if you've only been in that property 7-10 years, okay, well, there's still 20 years on that mortgage before it's paid off and you can actually legally split that lot, right? That's
Right.
for a smaller group of our population here who actually own outright, and those people are just like locked in place on those golden handcuffs. They have all the equity and nowhere to go because they can't afford it. So those people can lot split, but they're not the ones who I think are really capitalizing on that opportunity. I don't think they're like energetic enough, entrepreneurial enough.
But isn't that the whole point of the condoization? So you don't
Yeah.
need a lot split.
Yeah, no, I totally think you're right about
The
that.
problem with the condoization,
But you don't have enough money
though,
to do it,
No, the
so.
the problem with condoization is that once you condo your property, so let's say half of it is your single family home, and then you have an ADU above your garage. If you were to condoize it and then sell that ADU, your loan for the initial property is called due. You need to be able to buy it outright on that day. So until the lending is less restrictive around condoizations
Yeah.
of these newer builds, we aren't going to see people doing that because they cannot come
afford it.
up
That's
with
true.
the cash.
Yeah, so I
They can
think
use- yeah.
back to your point of, I think it was intended to have this great splash of impact on inventory being immediately available or quickly available that wasn't already available. And I'm like, it's moved the needle a smidge, but not in this like tidal wave of like everybody can go afford to buy a house now, because it's a smaller group than I think was initially believed could afford to do that option. But I think with the bigger Redfin and Zillow predictions, I think they're predicting like 6.5 as an average for next year on interest rates. I'm like,
Interest rate?
yeah, I'm like, that's not that impressive.
6.5. I read like slightly below 6.
I believe when you keep reading that it should be slightly below 6. So I'm
Okay.
like, that's kind of a cop out, like super conservative. I don't think you're impressing
Yeah.
anybody with that prediction. It
Yeah.
feels like too mild
But don't
for my
you think,
taste.
too, that a lot of the uncertainty is around some of the policies that we're seeing in Washington, D.C. and President Trump's erratic behavior? I think that it's hard for us to gauge kind of how the interest rates are going to be affected by the stock market or some of the decisions that they are making there in Washington, D.C.
Here are some like big hitter things that I think impact what's going on in the real estate market right now regarding rates, right? Most importantly, this is the most level we've seen interest rates since 2021. That in and of itself gives like a different feeling to the market, right? And so where people were like, we're in a bubble, blah, 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 which we never believed, but we were in a downturn, slight downturn. And I think a little bit, it might have bottomed out because these last 4 months have been the most stagnant we've seen rates since 2021.
Yeah,
And that's a big deal.
And
That just helps with people feel comfortable.
there you go.
And comfortable is important when you buy a
Yeah,
house.
because they feel less volatility or erratic, right? Because people are like, well, we're going to time the market. We're going to time the market. Well, and when they can see it being like,
At
hey,
the bottom.
this is what people are talking about when they say this is a correction. You see things slow down a little bit, and you use the word stagnant, but then it just gets predictable for people, and they're like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
I
I know
get
how
it
to play
now.
the game now.
Yeah,
right?
okay, I get it now.
Am I rushing to get my deal in, or do I have the opportunity to ask for concessions? And I think the other piece of it is like, we saw a huge surge in inventory in June of last year. Tons and tons of properties hit the market, but the buyer pool had remained the same. But I think it was because all of those people who had been locked into their mortgages had been given this advice that 2025 is where we really see this turnaround, where we're going to see things really pop off. And I think what they're forecasting now is that there's not going to be any popping off, because
there we go.
there's not going to be a whole lot of change. We aren't going to see the houses increase in value a whole lot.
No, they're going to be a lot slower than we've been seeing the last
Which
like
is healthy.
5 to 7 years, which is healthy
want
and
that.
needed. And then here's where that term is coming in, the Great Reset. I don't know why we feel the need to put great in front of
Well,
everything
Redfin
now.
wanted that one, but
Yeah, they were like proprietary. This is ours
we're
now.
making America and the housing reset great.
Oh my
Everything's
gosh.
great.
I don't know why we need to have great in front of everything, but yeah, I think this is where we see the housing market correction come to fruition. I do think that slowing in value will be friendlier to buyers, right? People who sat on the sidelines for a year, who are like, we're waiting for it, we're waiting for it. I'm like, it's still going to tick up, but not as much as it would if it were 5 years ago, right? When it was just going so rapidly that people couldn't compete or keep up with that. So I think it'll be favorable to buyers. I think it'll be a little annoying to sellers, but it's a bit of a reality check of like, this is how it's supposed to be. This is a healthier market when it feels more balanced.
You need to be doing things for your listings. You need to be setting them up for success. You need to actually put in care. It was like 2 years ago, or maybe 3 or 4 years ago, you could just throw anything on the market.
You could put a
and
for
sell.
sale sign up and it's going to go.
And now you have to actually, like back when I bought my first home, it was like we could get things fixed. If you lived in it for 10 years and you didn't like service your furnace once, that's a problem. Like you should be taking care of your home and making sure it's ready to list the right way.
I know lending limits went up, so especially here
that's
where
exciting.
we live, that you can apply for more money now that
Unconventional lending.
Yes.
And the other thing too, because the conventional lending limits went up to 832 on conforming, and now it's at, I forget, it's like 1.1 something for high balance.
Okay.
And so that means that you can put 5% down on a bigger home and still have, oh, that's what I was going to say.
Tell us.
More than I've ever seen in my career. And just as like a little bit of a shout out to me, a little like low brag, but I'm one of the top 1% lenders in the country. I do a lot of business. So I see a lot of stuff, right?
Okay.
More have I ever seen gifts from parents floating in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've totally worked with my
been a
lending
huge
pals
uptick.
and saw the same thing, that it was just higher than, like, people who are like still dual income, still high income earners, were still needing help from mom and dad, like at higher rates than we've ever seen.
It's a little bit, definitely the help is amazing. And if you have a parent that's helping you, like give them a hug and tell them you love them, that's awesome. But also it's like, the boomers are retiring and they're getting rid of their assets. They're liquidating. They have more access to things. And that access is also going to trickle into the market across the board. Stock market, housing market. They're selling, they're downsizing. So we're getting more listings coming up because of that. And then we're also having more actual cash hit our market, which is kind of a important thing when you look at like housing sales.
Yeah, we really need to see that liquidity, I think, to see things moving where we need them moving, right? Here's one of my predictions that's almost guaranteed. We know that people will still assume when the Fed cuts rates that mortgages are going to come down with that, right? Mortgage rates are going to come down with that, which we know is not the case.
Directly affected.
Because you're so welcome. I care so much about my lending friends who have to deal with this however many times this year, where it's like, however many times in a row, we actually saw the opposite happen, where rates ticked up a tiny bit right after this Fed cut. So I don't know why our consumers are still assuming this when they've had consistent pattern behavior of the opposite.
Way the media portrays it, right?
They hype it up quite a bit.
They put a lot of pressure on Jerome Powell to drop the rates because it's assumed that he is responsible for this housing crisis, which
is not the case.
Not the case.
I'm not going to give him that much credit. No way. That's not correct.
I do think that here in Seattle, we have a really strong job market.
There we go. Now we're talking. Now we're talking about stuff that matters when it comes to rates.
Gone up. So
here we go.
Yes, on a national level, there has been a lot of job loss, but here in Seattle, we are kind of the Silicon Valley for space, right? So
aerospace, tech, all the goodies.
Exactly. And so they're not going anywhere. And one of the things that I was reading about the city council is looking at the property taxes. So we have had in the state of Washington a excise tax on all of our investment properties. So there's a huge tax if you have earned money on your property, a certain amount that you would have to pay to the government. And so what they're trying to do to get people out of those second homes is to reduce the amount of tax that you would have to pay at the closing table, so that, because they really
capital
believe,
gains?
yes, that people are staying longer in their homes because they don't want to have to pay that tax.
Yeah,
So if
absolutely.
we could figure out a way to reduce that, it might be less money to the state, but we might also have more product available for folks.
Yeah, so just kind of hammering this where the labor market affects what we're talking about here. We know that a softer labor market means, hey, you'll feel a little bit of relief, eventually on those interest rates for the mortgages, but we have strong employment rates here, right? We've got a great kind of well-rounded, like different industries, I think, that keep our economy thriving here. And so that's a blessing for us because we have employed people. But I think what we also see is, for the first time in a while, we're seeing bigger averages of where people's incomes are going up, and kind of making it a little bit more doable to afford homes, when we've seen the opposite happening, where the homes are outpacing people's incomes, where they're not able to keep up with that. So now we have home prices maybe not going down, but slowing down on their increase, as well as wages kind of matching that a little bit more, so that we can see maybe a flip of that, maybe not a whole 180-degree flip, but we'll at least see a closer gap than we've been seeing.
And there will be more buying power. More money means more buying power. And
Yeah, there we go.
Have the opportunity to look at more product. And I think that in Seattle, we are also noticing that the wage growth has increased more than inflation. So we have more money than what we're spending. And again, this is contrary to what you're seeing nationwide. And what most of the news articles will say is that we're going to see a lot more families coming together and staying in houses longer, multi-generational, having roommates that rent out. That's probably something that we're going to see more of in 2026. And folks who really can't move, who are going to just remodel and re-envision.
Refi, remodel.
Refi,
And I think a lot of the advice, in the ether, when it comes to increasing your wealth, if you're a single family homeowner, but you're wanting to leverage your equity into something that's maybe kind of a side gig or a little bit of extra income, I call it growing more horizontally, where you are adding that ADU or you are freeing up a bedroom. So people are kind of doing this micro market of investments where they are doing individual rooms, almost boarding house style. So maybe while they're away for 3 months, they will rent out rooms on an Airbnb or a midterm rental pace versus a long-term boarder, right? You can do that when it's just in your home. I know zoning will affect that and CCRs will affect that, but that's one of the ways people are just looking to capitalize on this, kind of sitting in place equity that might not make sense to do something else with right now. But I think we'll see more of that from investors into this next year.
Specifically, too, we're going to see quite an injection of cash this year because of the World Cup.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's going to really surge some things.
But also, you look at that and you go, okay, well, I have clients that work for the Seattle Sounders, right? They're going to have more bookings. People are going to be more interested in soccer. They're going to be building up these things, restaurants,
hotels,
all those things
Airbnbs.
are going to go crazy this year, and it's going to be really good for our economy.
And folks are finally going to see Seattle at its greatest.
In the right time of year,
Exactly.
It's going to sparkle. The city's beautiful. We've got mountains. We've got water. We've already talked about this in other episodes, but it's an easy place to fall in love with. When I go somewhere else and I come back here, I'm like, wow, we're pretty spoiled. It is.
We got a little bit of everything.
We got a little bit of everything here. Yeah.
In Seattle specifically, we have little neighborhoods, right?
Pockets.
There's Green Lake, we've got Ballard, we got Magnolia, we got Queen Anne, and everybody is.
Pride.
Yeah, they do. They have their own pride for their
And
own.
personalities, very distinct personalities.
So when we talk about national averages and we talk about Seattle averages, these neighborhoods are going to pull a higher price point. They're going to continue to pull. Blue Ridge is going to continue to have high price points. Sandpoint is going to continue to have high price points. I do think we're going to see a lot more growth in some of the outskirts of the city. So I've been taking folks down to Auburn and Black Diamond area. There's a ton of growth out there that's happening. And what we're seeing in these new developments is that there's probably not going to be much parking. There's not going to be much yard space, but they're high density areas that kind of cater to folks who are either single or looking for that starter home. And I think we're going to see more of those condos pop up because it makes more sense financially to build that.
Yeah. I think too, like, Freddie Mac, and there's all these people that post their ideas about what's the future going on, and I love Freddie Mac's Envisions. Always they're like full PDFs on what's going to happen in the years to come, and their big thing was return to rural. So a lot of the what's after us?
Alpha or Gen. So after millennial is a Gen Z, and then
Z.
there's like an alpha after that.
Gen Zs, they can't afford to live in the city, and God forbid they live in the suburbs. They're not going to do that. So they are wanting full houses and these rural areas. And if you spend time out there in all these places in Washington, you see like all these, I mean, there's some like amazing pizza over in Kingston, right? There's like amazing like bakeries out on the islands.
Kingston's no longer small though. There are $1 million homes now there in Kingston.
But there are $1 million homes because they're on the water, which is crazy that some of them even aren't $1 million. But like you can find houses out there that are reasonable price for these younger generation of buyers. So I think that pans well is what we were talking about.
And a lot of my younger buyers are the same way. We've had to have discussions about how they want to buy land. But buying land is the most expensive.
Buying land is, I think, harder than most people assume it is. Like, it's different if you inherited the land or were gifted the land and you already own it outright, and then you can build on it.
Well, that's like, do you want like $1,000 payment for just a lot, like super far away? Plus your rent?
Plus your, no,
and
absolutely not,
to build something.
Which is construction costs, right?
And sewage and all of that. That's going to be so expensive. So I think that there's also, yes, these kiddos want to be out on the land, but kind of re-educating them as to what that would really look like.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll date myself and sound like an old timer right now, and just because
you are the youngest one here, though.
Okay, so, well, I'm going to say what I'm going to say regardless, shamelessly right now, which is that I think that we are right on the edge because we're all millennials, and we are very clear that there's a Gen Z after us. There's a very different thought process in how people show up in the workplace and how people show up in like the consumer markets by what they believe they're entitled to and what they believe that they deserve, right? Those are, and at the pace of which they should get it. Meaning, how much work should I be putting in for this payoff? I want to purchase a vacant raw land and I'm going to build on it. I'm like, great, go ahead and do the math and see how that computes because it's a lot harder than it looks. But what they think they're entitled to is like, I shouldn't have to live in the condos just like you guys did. Like everybody else did, where you're like
Can we
in a
talk
shoebox.
about condos though, by the way?
Let's do that. We're on a real estate podcast. Let's talk about it.
The gap between, I'm sorry, but I'm going to say this unpopular opinion. Townhomes are gross. Like they're overpopulated, they're built up, they're only for dink couples without kids.
Dual income, no kids.
I can't imagine I have a baby carrying my stroller up any stories. And dealing with the groceries and the baby. And now that my baby loves stairs, no thank you, 3 stories. And so this condoization thing has created, more importantly than I think just this big influx, is just a new type of house in Seattle. And one that's a 2-story, 1,200 square foot condo, which is completely livable and reasonable for a couple with kids.
It's a standalone. It's a standalone home. I think when most people think about a condo, they think about a
shared walls.
Building. Right?
Well, and I have 2 concepts about this, which people are not like thinking about, but to you bring up a good point, because I have all these young kids that they go, I don't want a condo.
I don't want to share walls.
And it's like,
I want a yard.
The condos are still on sale. I sold a condo in 2019, and it has gone up maybe $5,000 since then.
Since 2019.
Which you're like, okay, but that's like exactly why you don't buy a condo. It doesn't appreciate as much. But there is now such a pressure in price per square foot between condos and single family houses that there is nowhere else for condos to go. The problem that is arising with condos in 2023, there was all these new rules for getting condo financing.
And my gosh,
like listings,
so true.
You got to get your condos on point. You got to be, first of all, if you own a condo, make sure you are on the board and you are talking through these decisions and your system is tight. Maybe you need to up dues, maybe you need to do something, but take care of your condo.
The financing, like you got to be healthy.
Got to be a healthy
Associations
condo.
have to be healthy in order for the financing to work.
And if you have a healthy condo, it's a heck of a deal. It gets you into this really low price point. There are condos in Queen Anne right now that are below $300,000 that I have not seen be below $300,000 in
Queen Anne
5 years.
It's incredible.
Queen Anne is one of the most expensive areas.
Yes, so it's like
Don't rule it out, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I
and I'm
agree,
like, I think
because
it's on sale. I think it's a great
you're right,
step
and
up.
I think that most people are seeing it as a, I don't know, like a backward step.
Yeah.
I think is how it's perceived.
But that's right on the point of how generations think about the purchase,
Right.
because it's like, babe, you're at the starting line. What do you mean a backward step? You can't go back any further. You're not even in the game yet. Like, how about you start
Let's
somewhere?
get in the game
Yeah.
and let's make sure that your rent isn't going into somebody else's mortgage and paying it down, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Wait, do you remember in Step Step Brothers how he's like, I'm going to join the family business? Like, oh, he said he wanted to join the family business.
right?
Prestige worldwide.
Worldwide.
John C. Reilly's character
Yeah.
tells his dad, I'm going to join the family business. And she's like, aren't you a doctor? He's like, he said it's all about who you know. I'm like, I think that's what we're talking about. Like, the people who are ruling out condos too fast are the people who are like, no, I'm going to go single family, 3,000 square foot with a fenced in yard, and it's going to be with a 15-minute commute
You're
to
never
Seattle.
gonna get in that house though. That's the problem. It's gonna take you 15 years before you're ready, and
Yeah.
by that point,
The house has doubled. The house has doubled easily at that point.
I mean, there is a pressure point with these condos right now where I'm like, it has to go higher. It literally
going to.
can't.
So
Yeah.
that's your
lower.
prediction for the year then? Do you think it's going to go
I
up?
don't think it's there yet, but I think that if you got into one at a good deal,
Yeah.
it's a good condo, because again, there is like a horde of a difference between these like HOAs that haven't paid for a new roof in like 72
Yeah.
years, that have like no money in their funds, and a good HOA. But if you get into a good HOA, I think it's a genius purchase for
I
them. Get them on
agree.
discount.
Okay, so a hot tip that if you're shopping, like if you have a HOA that's like, wow, the HOAs are only $200 here. I'm like, that's a red flag.
Yes.
Those are too low. You should probably be paying like closer to $400, I
And
would
why
say.
is that? Because it covers water, sewage, garbage, insurance.
Yeah.
Those are bills
And,
that you also have
and
as a house.
upkeep,
Even-
right?
yeah,
like
that doesn't even
it's
include-
putting money
yeah.
in for those special assessment things that are going to come up later. It's like you're going to need to repair stairs, siding, plumbing, parking lots, right? All of these things that are going to need ongoing maintenance, especially with the amount of traffic that you're sharing that parking lot with. And so it's healthy to have an HOA that's like a little bit, closer to that 400 or even, higher. I've seen some go really high, but I think it's worth doing your homework and knowing, like you said, if you do already live there, get involved, know the like current health of that whole financial situation, because it'll set you up better for success when you go to sell.
Notes.
Meeting minutes are my favorite. That's where all the
because then
drama
you know-
happens.
Yeah, exactly. You know.
Barbara,
Right.
Barbara's
Barbara's been
down.
complaining about this break-in for like 7 months.
She wants the new video cameras,
yeah.
and it turns out it's actually her setting traps in the middle of the night.
But it wasn't her the first
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
it was
yeah,
somebody
yeah.
else genuinely.
But
She
Barb
saw
is
him.
out there chain smoking and catching them.
Pall Malls.
Getting 'em.
She's
Getting 'em.
we have to acknowledge she's chain smoking Pall Malls, and she's been rocking the same haircut for the last 4 decades.
It's like very short.
Yeah.
And it's Barb.
But how many?
She watches the HOA.
But does
and
she have
watches
cats?
your cats when you're gone.
I was gonna say, but what about the cat?
I mean, I'm like low key. I own a home, but I am a condo lover.
Yeah.
My dream is to buy an apartment building and turn the whole top story into my own condo.
Why
because-
not? Why not? Why haven't you done it yet?
Yeah,
Do you need a
because I have
realtor?
house.
I know a couple. My best accomplishment of the year was putting a family in a condo. They were not born in this country. It was a very modest budget we were working with, and it was my proudest transaction this year.
Nice.
Was putting them in a condo. It was like South King County area. So I'm like, that area is going to do well for them. If they
Right, it's-
live there 10 years or move in 5, like they're in good shape.
I mean, there's some cool, spacious condos.
Okay, so if we were going to wrap up what we've been chatting about today, what do we think for 2026?
I think we're going to see a steady rising market.
Steady rising sales. How about mortgage rates?
I think mortgage rates will steadily, I'm praying they steadily come down. If we have
It's a
something,
little slow.
I'm going to say creep. I'm going to say creep down. I do
should
agree
we-
that they move.
creep,
Slide.
creep.
So I creep. Yeah, just keep it on the down low. 'Cause nobody has to know.
Crushed it.
Yep, TLC.
Okay,
got
so I
nothing
do
on
think
this.
rates are going to go down, but I think they won't like flash flood down. I think it's going to be a
pray that
decline. Yeah, I would too. I think that's a
I mean,
great.
is it
That's great for everybody
economically,
when we're wrong.
We're just.
There we go. Yeah.
Economically, we're just happy. We're in a
Yeah,
happy
because if
place.
it drops rapidly, it means something else is going terribly wrong in the economy.
There we
Which-
go. But back to more predictions,
I
right?
have some
So we've talked about rates. We've talked about rates going down, market going up. I will go on the record saying I think house values will continue to increase, but much slower than we've seen the last couple years.
Yeah.
Like you'll
I
see it
would
grow, but
definitely- And I think it's dependent on, like I said before, which neighborhood you're located in.
yeah, that will make a big difference because we have seen stats where like, hey, homes actually went down in value here.
But
like
not
few and
here,
far between, not where we live, but across the country, if you're just
Right.
staying well informed, there are a few select places that make sense where like values have dropped.
But we're not going to be one of those areas that's like popping off as far as sales go.
Yeah, because it will be in my mind, it will be in those places where values have dropped. So investors are going to go in and start shopping out of state. That's where I think sales will go up faster because prices went down. So here, they're not going to be moving a ton. They're not going to be going like way high or way like even down really. They're going to like mostly stay the same and creep up a tiny bit.
And I think things to look forward to, with like the little pain points in your head as you move forward, is if porting mortgages does become a thing. Trump has been throwing that out there, which could be a really big deal for our housing market in a great way. Not for me, because I'm a lender, but for you guys. You'll have more listings. And it'll open up the market and keep it even more kind of temperate.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's a perfect fix. It sounds super messy, and I think people will need a lot of education on it before we can call it a Band-Aid on a broken leg, like where it's going to fix some things, but I don't think it's going to fix anything.
That's
everything.
a whole nother podcast.
Oh yeah,
Porting
totally.
it's going to solve everything.
You think it's going to solve everything?
I think it would solve everything.
I do think it would give a lot of hope. I just don't know that it's like as much as we
The reason why
think it
people
is.
stay their houses, like
Golden handcuffs.
Try and pry my 3% rate from me.
Yeah, I'll
Try
die
and do
first.
it.
I'm 2.25, babe. I'm
I'll
not
die,
going anywhere.
I'll die. And it
And
still
that house.
won't go because you can assume that loan. My partner will be able to take it over.
Yep, totally.
Porting, if you said I could port and move to any other place and keep my rate, 1,000% I'd do it.
You think you would do? Ugh. Yeah.
Something to think about.
50-year mortgages though? No.
Don't
That's a
do
big
that.
boo.
Don't sign me up for a 50-year mortgage. No, thank you. I won't sign my clients up for it either.
That's solving
That's a no
a
for
mystery
me.
for a seller, but that doesn't help any of our buyers.
No, not even a little bit does it help our buyers.
Thanks for following along with us today.
That was fun.
Scorpio rising out.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Leah.
Out.